So, hey everybody, I'm Eli Beckman. I'm the mayor. Welcome to another one of our fantastic Tuesday community chats. We've got Town Manager Todd Cusimano, we've got Assistant Town Manager and Town Clerk Rebecca Vaughn, Public Works Director RJ Succo, Fire Chief Ruben Martin, and Code Enforcement Official Mike Moriarty on the line. And I understand that we may be getting some other department heads joining us later on as well. So we're here to answer all your questions. We'll give you a few little updates on what's been going on in town over the last couple of weeks. And then we'll go ahead and turn it over to you guys for questions. I don't have too much in the way of opening comments today, other than that, excited that we finally made it with COVID. We graduated from the purple tier to the red tier. We do remain on the governor's watch list, but it's nice to see that we're starting to trend in the right direction. And we're starting to be able to reopen some of the things that had previously been open and were then closed when we had a spike in cases. So it's a little bit of a dramatic saga that we're going through here, but I think we're all really appreciative of the way our residents are just kind of toughing it out. You know, we grin and bear it. It's no fun for any of us, but I'm so impressed whenever I go out in Corte Madera and see how many folks are being really diligent about wearing masks, maintaining social distance, doing everything they can to help keep our numbers down, because that's the only way we're going to be able to reopen and get off the governor's watch list. So kudos to all the residents who are working hard on that front. A couple other quick little announcements on my end. Sounds like Supervisor Dennis Rodoni is going to be joining us for our second October community chat. So that'll be in about a month, but we'll look forward to having him there, and that we may try and find a way to weave in special guests to future chats. So that'll be nice. And other than that, I don't think I've really got too much to share. So I will go ahead and turn it over to staff for any updates.
Yeah. Before I start off this, any staff, do you have any updates? You guys want to start? You want to? So I hopefully my background's okay. My family kicked me out of the house, and so I'm in the backyard enjoying my newest office. I feel bad because it looks like my whole team is at work right now. So good job, everybody. As the mayor said, we did move to tier 2, the red tier. A number of openings, personal care services was in our area. Hair salons is probably the major change for us, but also it affects restaurants. We now have indoor dining up to 25% capacity, and gyms and fitness centers are at 10% capacity. As we've talked about over the past few weeks and months, staff is working closely with businesses to really help them with their business model, to waive fees and streamline process when we're able to. So outdoor dining is an example. A lot of the parklets that you see in town will continue to do that. Staff obtained a $20,000 grant to help with tents and heating lamps, tables and equipment as we move forward. We're also doing something similar for yoga studios and outdoor fitness to allow areas in our park and on town-owned property where we can help facilitate, classes in a safe way. And so Ashley with Parks and Rec has really taken the lead there to help out businesses. And so your staff is taking it day to day and just really trying to be creative and proactive as we move forward. Julie Kritzberger is the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce for the town of Corte Madera. She's one of the leaders amongst all the chambers of commerce within the county, and has really taken a leadership role as we move forward and think about economic development in our economy, both in Corte Madera and Marin County. She's involved in a lot of that feedback. One of them was recently, I think all the cities and towns are looking at a 10 to 12 point kind of plan as we move forward. And one of the things that was left off was tourism, which is really important to this county. And Julie's the one that raised that and really worked with that group to make sure that that's part of our plan moving forward. And just one example, some of her great work. And she's on the call. I don't ever want to put her on the spot, but she is available to us. And I just want the residents to know, if you have any questions on what the town or the Chamber of Commerce is doing to help the business community, we have Julie on the call available to answer any questions as well. Just to follow up from the last council meeting, we had the first of 2 meetings to amend our ordinance and our resolution regarding dogs in the town park. And council gave direction to basically ratify those changes at the next meeting. We're mirroring the county ordinance with 6-foot leashes in length. We also are restricting animals from swimming in the waterways on the east side of the park. And so those changes are going to be made. And staff's going to continue to work with the community and the council on updates, as well as the commission, to see if we have to do any further restrictions, within Town Park. As we've talked about on a weekly and monthly basis, on these calls, enforcement's a big issue. And so one of the things that came from our last meeting as well is we talked about a communications plan, not only a mission statement on really what this town is about as a council, as a community, as staff, but also, how do we communicate better with the community? And so the council approved our plan. It's on the website. Please go to it and look at that staff report. I thought Rebecca and the mayor did a great job working with Jen Reedy on developing our plan for us. Something that came from it is we need a communications person as part of our team. And luckily for us, we have someone in Mike Moriarty, who's also on this call. He's also the code enforcement officer for our town, but he does much more than that. He works amongst, all of our town departments, our council, and the community to problem solve a wide variety of issues, and also really evaluates how we can best communicate with our community, and not a sales pitch from a communication standpoint, but communicating, responding effectively, following up effectively, and ultimately problem solving and getting the yes for a resident. And so he's been outstanding. We're coming back to the council at the next meeting to basically adjust his job duties. Again, this will be a 2-meeting conversation as a council practice. And what we'll do is I see him as a communications and a code enforcement manager. And so he'll be getting a promotion. And then behind it, I think most importantly, from a complaint process from the community, is that we're going to actually go and ask the council to do a budget amendment of about $100,000 to hire code enforcement officials underneath Mike. So where Mike will supervise them, but really try to get a 7-day-a-week coverage on our noise complaints, our animal complaints, our quality of life issues. And obviously we know that we can't rely on CMPA. They're probably not best positioned to do this anyway. And so we hear you all, and I think we have a plan, and we're going to bring it to the council at the next meeting. Again, it'll be a 2-meeting process, but if any of you have any feedback, it's always helpful to hear them on these calls, or please let me know over the next month, or the mayor, because we definitely want to hear your feedback on that. So a lot of moving parts. And just lastly, I'll just say we gave an update. Daria Carrillo, our finance director, who's outstanding, really developed a pretty robust plan on how we navigate the financial waters in an economic downturn. And her work has really started 4 years ago. And this is the first really kind of time where we've been challenged with the economic downturn. And we gave a report at the last meeting. It's pretty positive for this last fiscal year under the certain conditions. We had thought that we would see about a $1.7 million deficit. We actually were able to close that gap to about $178,000 deficit. And part of that deficit included a $1 million deposit into our pension trust from a surplus from the previous year. And so that's a lot of the good work of the finance committee and Daria. And so please go to the website and look at that report and let us know if you have any questions. Larry Reed is on the call. He's part of our finance committee who has done a lot of that work over the past few years. And so if you have any questions for Larry from a finance committee standpoint, please jump in and ask those. And Larry, I'm sure would be happy to answer them. And then moving forward, the finance committee is doing some really important work. And so, we really took an aggressive stance to really figure out how to pay off our unfunded liabilities in both retiree health and CalPERS. And our pension trust is built up to about $3.5 million and really a 10-year financing plan to get there. We're looking at another financing model to add another layer of aggressiveness to really solve this problem within that time frame. And so it has to do with potentially bonding. It's a little different situation than in past years of the pros and cons. And so we think the interest rates are at a level where maybe we want to reconsider those. And so we had the first of many meetings with our finance committee to evaluate that and work through it and ultimately provide a recommendation to the council. Whatever we decide, if this is a pretty long process, it's about 8+ months to go through this process. But again, the finance committee is jumping on it now and looking at that. And with that, I'm going to just stop there. We got a lot going on. There's also some exciting economic development happening in town. You know, Amy's is recently opened, as we've talked about, but they're doing really well. Restoration Hardware is starting to open. I'm not sure if their restaurant is open yet, if anyone knows on the call if they have, but they should be soon as we move into a different tier. But we also have some exciting companies that are considering moving into town and providing a great business model to our town that'll not only provide a great service to our community, but potentially could provide a pretty robust revenue stream to the town over the next decade or so. And so we're a lot of moving parts, really excited. I haven't felt this good in about 6 months since this all started, but I just really thank the council, our committees and staff from really attacking this thing and looking for opportunities in a scary situation of how do we take advantage of opportunity and be aggressive and not just let these hits come at us, but to fight back and to really attack it. And I think we're starting to see some of the fruits of our labor moving forward. And that's all I have for right now, boss.
Perfect. Any other department heads want to jump in here and give any updates before we open this up for questions? And if not, I just remembered one thing that I wanted to mention that I forgot, which is the September, round 2 of our town's COVID housing assistance program. So this is, I mean, I still am blown away that staff did this. This is one of the most amazing things that I've heard of in my time in local politics. So staff partnered with, the town partnered with the Corte Madera Community Foundation to basically put together an emergency assistance fund for residents who lost their income due to COVID and were not able to make their housing payments and were at risk of being evicted from their homes, you know, whether it's a mortgage payment issue or a rent issue. But we have, you know, a decent number of residents in town who were at very real risk of losing their homes due to COVID. And this fund that we put together has allowed us to directly assist residents and keep them in their houses. So we started this program in August last month, and we were able to help 26 homeowners. Thanks again to the Community Foundation for their generous donation that we were able to match. But so we helped 26 folks in August. September, we helped about 47 folks. So this is a huge success story for Corte Madera. This is a program that other municipalities in Marin County are looking at, you know, figuring out how they can replicate. I mean, this is really fantastic leadership on the part of Corte Madera. So I just want to say again, like huge congratulations to our staff and to the Community Foundation for pulling this off. And I mean, the direct impact that we're having on residents' lives is, this is just so meaningful. And I think for a lot of us, this is really why we're in government, is to have this kind of impact on people's lives, to help people who are down and hurting. And so that, you know, it just blows me out of the water every time I think about it. So, you know, I just wanted to update folks on that incredible program. And I mean, you know, September turned out to be an even stronger month for that program than August. So great work there. And with that, we will go ahead and open it to questions. So anybody who's on the line wants to ask a question to any of our staff, go ahead and throw your hand up on Zoom, and we will start getting you guys on the line here to ask your questions. We're going to go to Susie first.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I have a list for you today.
Oh, bring it on.
So, I have a question that I read in the newspaper, but this probably goes to Mike or to Todd, but I read that the San Rafael Police Department was canceling their campus police. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and I just wondered what's going on with ours. I happen to be somebody who, back when my son was at Redwood, I thought the campus police were fabulous, and I have heard nothing but good things about them in this area. So I thought, oh gosh, are they really having to do that? But it's interesting you're talking about expanding Mike's department, and I don't know, maybe there's a little something to say about that. I'm curious about that. And if you don't mind, I have like 2 more things, but should we do one at a time?
Sure, let's do one at a time.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I can take that. So you may have seen it in the Marin IJ. I think it was last month. A lot of the school districts started taking up this national conversation that really started 2,000 miles away from us and then moved its way to both the East and West Coast. The conversation was, there was this opinion out there, and you know, my comments were made in that, are on the record on this, but a lot of people felt like it was inappropriate to have a uniform officer in schools. And then so as we started to talk about defunding police departments, this was one of the programs, special programs that people some people targeted and wanted to have a public discussion about. And so I think within the county, that's happening. Every district is not created equal or doesn't think the same way. And it sounds like some are starting to go away from that. What I'll tell you with ours, and what I'll tell you just being in the business for 21 years, one of the most important positions in a police department, especially in our area, I can't speak for everywhere, is the school resource officer. They're the conduit between the officers, the parents, the teachers, and the kids. They're the ones that educate kids on how police operate and why they do what they do. And then the kids also educate the police officer, the school resource officer, on perception and how we do things that scare them, that are an issue, that we need to step back and think about and reevaluate. And that information is taken back to staff and our officers. And so back in 2008, when our Central Marin Police Authority building project came to the voters were really clear when we started doing surveys. They're like, look, we support the police. We support a brick and mortar, but not just brick and mortar. We want services. Well, what kind of services do you want? And the taxpayers and citizens of Corte Madera and Larkspur at an 84% approval rate wanted a school resource officer funded for 20 plus years to serve the high schools because they understood what that was about. At the time, Patty Monet was our school resource officer, and some of our most popular officers came from the school resource officer position. And just lastly, I'll close with this. We received my last year as police chief, an annual award that is pretty prestigious. I feel like from a community services standpoint, it was from the Northern Division of the ACLU, and it was on community service based on the services that Central Marin Police Authority provides. And one of the key components of that recognition from the ACLU was our school resource officer program. So the schools don't pay for that. The residents of Corte Madera and Larkspur do, based on that tax measure. And so we wanted to make sure that the school board understood that. And I think they got it. But again, it's actually being talked about. And you have a couple, I know of one candidate for the school district, the Tamalpais School District, that feels strongly that school resource officers should not be on campus. And so
oh, really?
Thank you for bringing it up. I think it would be a huge mistake and step backwards, but I don't get to make those.
Is that, if he's public about it, would that be proper for you to say who that candidate is?
Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll forward Susie, and I'll forward it. I'll have anyone that wants it, but I'll for sure forward the article to you. It's actually in that article. If you go to just type in school resource officer, it's not this last article from San Rafael, it's the one before. It was last month. His statement and name is in that article.
Okay, yeah, because I'm very supportive of that program, and I just wondered if there was something going on we didn't know about, and I'm really glad to hear that we're still, doing that. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just share my perspective on that as well as somebody who went through our entire public school system. I thought that having the school resource officer, I'm not sure if that's what it was called back in that time, but I thought having for us, it was Officer Patty. She was like a fixture in our schools. And I don't know, we all loved her. And I thought it was really important. I thought we all got a lot out of having her there. That was my personal perspective. Definitely would be interested to hear what, other voices in the community have to say. But to me, I just kind of feel like, and this may not even be under my jurisdiction anyway, so I may just be, spouting off here. But I just kind of feel like if the issue that we're confronting right now is a lack of trust between the populace and law enforcement, it seems like keeping those two farther apart is not the way to build trust. To me, it seems exactly like Todd said. It seems like increasing engagement is the way to build trust and build mutual understanding. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I like your 2 cents. I agree. Well, thanks. And
Sure.
So I have another question, which is probably for RJ, and that is there was some rumor in my neighborhood here in Mariner Cove that people were talking about signing a petition to get the creek dredged, which is not a creek, out here behind my house. That's the area in Mariner Cove that has now kind of turned to marsh, and it did used to be a creek, a tidal creek, when I first moved here in 1976. And but someone said that there was something going on about they're dredging it again, and I said, gee, I don't know anything about it, and we've been through this about 50 million times, and with the action that's going on with the climate adaptation plan and all that sort of thing, I said I'd be very surprised if they would even touch that with a 10-foot pole. But is there something that you've heard about, or?
You know, I hadn't heard of anything that was catching a lot of momentum. Doesn't mean that it's not going on, but that is a jurisdiction of, you know, many resource agencies to go in there and dredge it. So doesn't mean you couldn't with the proper permits, but it would, you know, be a good 6-month minimum plus process to get through all those after you have some, you know, level of design.
Right.
And that's, yeah, you're sounds like you're referring to San Clemente Creek, the portion that's east of Paradise Drive. Yeah. The portion inboard, you know, on the Madera del Presidio side, it's a little different. It's kind of been cut off from the natural waterway for some time, and it has some different maintenance efforts that they can do. And I'm more aware of those. And I think there's one that's coming up right now. And they have the blessing of California Fish and Wildlife and others. But yeah, once you get to the east side, those are natural waters that would need permits for any work.
Of course, yeah. Okay, thank you. Very quickly, one other thing, there's property at the entrance to Mariner Cove, which is on the corner of, let's see, Seawolf and Paradise Drive. And it is the most westerly entrance to Mariner Cove. And it's pretty unattractive. Mariner Cove Association recently redid a sign out there, so that looks a little bit better. But the property that is on the west corner, I just wonder if recently someone, I know who it was, but I won't say, did some repair work out there that looks actually really good. It was a citizen who went in and did the work unbeknownst to anybody. But I just wonder who the property belongs to, because it's really unsightly. It's the corner, and there's dirt coming out. There's some brick stuff in the background, and it's an area we haven't been able to coordinate with the homeowner who lives there, because he's not interested in fixing anything up. I just wondered what part of it might belong to the town, and you know, maybe we could get some help with that. And probably I should talk to you about that on the side, because I realize not everybody needs to hear about it.
Well, if it's that kind of red, kind of concrete CMU short wall, we have a project that's widening the sidewalk there. It's for a Safe Routes project that's going next summer.
Oh, that's okay.
So anything that's happening there, you know, there's an opportunity to kind of make it proper when we come back next summer. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss it in more detail.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I apologize for taking the floor here so much.
No worries. Okay, thank you, Susie. Thank you, RJ. We're going to go to Lucinda, and then Barbara, and then James. And I just want to let folks know that since we started, we've also been joined by Ashley Howe, our Director of Parks and Rec, and also Adam Wolf, our Planning and Building Director. So if you've got any questions for them, they are here as well. And next up is going to be Lucinda.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for doing this. Great opportunities. Todd, I wanted to just clarify with regard to your comment about the leash law that was discussed at Town Council last week. Does it apply just to Town Park? I thought it was all of Corte Madera, but when I just heard your comments, I think you said just Town Park. So could you clarify for me so I understand what is what?
Thanks, Lucinda, for keeping me out of trouble and honest. Yeah, so the leash law is town-wide, but specific to Town Park was the waterway. So we're restricting animals in the waterway specific to the canal on the east side of Town Park. And so that's the one thing that is specific just to Town Park, but the leash law itself is town-wide.
So that's the 6 feet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I wondered also, Todd, if you could elaborate just a wee bit further on your comments about the finance when you were talking about the pension fund. What is the asset value for the Corte Madera fund? And then what is our unfunded liability? I just trying to understand a couple of numbers. Not that I'm trying to get deep into it. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, so it's a complicated question, Lucinda. It's one that it's a visual for me whenever I'm explaining it. But for all intents and purposes, if you go off the CalPERS actuary report that does the analysis. Right now, the town of Corte Madera's unfunded liability is about 18 or 19 million dollars. We think it's higher, and that's the whole other conversation for later. But as we project a plan over the next 15 years to fund it, we'll just use that number for now. What the council has done is we not only make our, and so what CalPERS did is they said, okay, over the next 20 years at a 7% interest rate, you're going to basically pay this 18 or 19 million dollars off. So what we did is we make those payments annually, but we also built a pension trust that we control. We control how it's how we invested and all those good things. It's really is run through our finance committee that I mentioned earlier. Right now, that we put approximately 900,000 into it annually, and it's grown to about $3.5 million. At the current projections as we move forward, what we're trying to attempt to do as a town, as a council, and as a finance committee is to fully fund our unfunded liabilities at a 5% discount rate, not a 7, by 2034 is what we're trying to do. And so that's the visual conversation for a later date. But that's, and I think right now in total investments within the Corte Madera Fund, in assets, I believe it's in the mid $50 million range. We have about 50 million in assets that go towards the pension obligations right now, with about 18. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. And that was basically all. I'm short today.
Alrighty, thank you, Lucinda. All right, next up is going to be Barbara and then James.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you. I'm delighted to hear about the $100,000 budget amendment for code enforcement in the town. I think it's very appropriate and much needed, which, well, especially now, given that everyone's at home and working from home. I think obviously you guys are getting a lot more complaints and so forth. And well, you know, I really think we're never going to get a handle, especially on the dog barking issues, unless we expand we have a real code enforcement team that does it. Mike Moriarty is great, but he can't do it all by himself. He can't work, you know, 24/7. So that's great. So thank you. And I also want to point out that since COVID-19, it seems like every single household in the Twin Cities now has a dog. So there are more dogs than ever. So, you know, that problem is the dog barking issue is here with us to stay. The other thing I want to say is thank you about that somebody put a notice on the town signboard about banning gas leaf blowers. And I think that was a great idea. And I think a lot of people noticed it. And I must say, even in 1 week, or what was it, been 2 weeks since last meeting, I hear a lot less gas leaf blowers now in my immediate neighborhood, which I really appreciate. And on my own, I have been going out, handing out flyers to landscapers who might not know about the law change. So, and I got those flyers from the town website. So thank you, Rebecca. I think you're the one who put that up there. So, and that's it. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Barbara. All right. Next up is going to be James.
Hi, everyone. I had some questions about the sewer project over here in the Mariner Cove and whatever the other area is called on Harbor and Echo.
Marina Village.
Marina Village, yes. And I sent in something to RJ, who responded promptly, and Chris responded. Good responded, and we've had some back and forth with Chris, and I really want to thank everybody for being so cooperative and responding so quickly. But it struck me that I can't be the only person with questions over here sort of about the operational details and how it's going to affect people individually. Because what happened personally was I saw this stuff going on over on Harbor, and I looked, the whole street got closed down at one point, And I thought, oh my God, if they do that over on YOLO, we can't get out and so forth. Well, Chris said that that will not happen in that particular area. But then I had other questions that kept coming up the more I thought about the scenario, and I thought others must have too, because one of my neighbors said something about when is this going to take place and what are they going to do, or how is it going to take place? So some of the things like I thought about was, you know, our driveway is going to be closed, and we'll have to, and when. And Chris gave me some suggestion about that, how that works. But then the other thing, which I hadn't thought about before, is the sewer is going to be shut down and out of the house for some period of time. And when will we be notified about that? How much advance notice? And part of my concern has to do also, not only personally, but with a couple of neighbors that need help a lot of the time with various things. And I don't think they're going to be caught up on all of this and potentially run into some problems with transportation and things like that. So I was wondering if a frequently asked question sheet could be prepared or something like that, that would kind of address the actual procedures that are going to take place as this comes closer to our neighborhood or comes in our neighborhood.
Yeah, we can, yeah, I can definitely take a look at what's been sent out, and if we need to update it or resend it or provide more information, happy to do that. And then I think, yeah, we had a light discussion. I know Chris followed up with you. So in particular, you know, Harbor and Echo, those are kind of redundant. So if we're working on Harbor, you know, through traffic can be sent through Echo. And likewise, if it works on Echo, it can be sent over through Harbor. But when you get to a cul-de-sac, we're still letting the property owners that live on it to get through to their homes. And then if there is that, you know, specific need that, hey, on this day or these 2 days, you're not going to have access to your driveway, you'll get a special notification that says that. And it'll be limited just to when they're working, you know, right in front of your house or right on your lower lateral. So that's kind of the intent. And we kind of, I know the signs say road closure, we call them soft closures. So if you ever, you know, are, if that whole block says road closed, but you say, hey, I live in there, can I get to my house? They'll let you in, or they should. And if they're not, then please let me know, and I'm happy to set them straight. But that's the intent. You know, but all that consideration there, you know, you might have to wait a few minutes as they put a couple plates down to let you get through or whatnot. So that's the intent there. And then as far as you know, the sewer being functional, yeah, the main line is going to be functional all times. Even when they're working on it, they should have a bypass, a temporary bypass, so that they can still pass the effluent. And then the only time you might be out is on that, you know, specific day when they're working on your specific lower lateral. They might say, you know, yeah, you know, on this day or these 2 days from, you know, 8 to 5, please limit your usage of your sewer.
Does limit mean not using anything like sinks, water, toilets, or on those particular days?
Yeah, and like I said, I think we're probably talking about 1 day, maybe 2 at the worst in those situations. You know, if you happen to use your sink for a second, is it going to cause a big issue? No, but definitely don't want to you know, take a long shower on that day or anything, and then obviously try not to flush. So I know everything's different now with everyone staying at home for shelter in place, but a lot of the stuff kind of happens normally with people away at work, and obviously things are all different nowadays. But if anyone has any you know, inconveniences, impacts, you know, they can always reach out and we can always troubleshoot.
Well, that's why I was thinking that with some of the neighbors and myself also, if we can't use the sewer, if we know we're not going to be able to use the sewer, when are we going to be told about it? How, you know, are we going to get 24-hour advance notice, 48-hour advance notice, no advance notice? You know, those are the kinds of things that I think people are going to have questions about, and if it could be addressed on a fact sheet, I think that would help. I was struck because
generally I would say 72 hours, you should get that notice saying, hey, we're, a few days we're going to come and we're working right in front of your home. And then we can try to give you more notice. Hey, we're coming to this neighborhood in a week or two. We can work on putting something out to that extent.
Yeah, particularly my concern would be sewer shutdown in essence for individual houses around here, so that people know that they're going to get some notice and when. Related to this, I was over on Harbor and I'd asked a couple of people if they knew that the street was going to be closed, and both of them said no. But one of them said something that I thought should be considered. So this is a very bad time to do this for me because I'm unemployed and money is a problem and so forth. And we were talking about having the upper laterals taken care of. And so I was just wondering if the town had given any thought to what to do if some of the homeowners with having to spend money on upper lateral work is going to cost a bunch of money. That's not a problem for me particularly, but I'm just passing along what this woman said, and it did occur to me that's probably true for a lot of people. And then I just heard about this program of helping people, and I was wondering if that kind of thing might operate with this too.
Yeah, so actually last sanitary district board meeting, they approved two new, formalized one and added a second assistance program. These are pilot programs, and one is it offers up to 75% contribution for people with low incomes. So perhaps the person you're speaking to falls within that category, and we're happy to talk with them about the details and find out how they may or may not be eligible. And then secondly, if there's no other ability for someone to fund it on their own, the district has set up a loan program. So again, we're happy to discuss with any individuals and help them kind of through the process.
Yeah, James, if you could refer that individual to us, that'd be great, because we did just set up these programs specifically to address that issue that you just mentioned.
I'm actually not sure that I know who the individual was, but
no worries.
That also might be something that would be nice to go out on the fact sheet or somewhere so that people know about this.
Yeah, so toward the end of the town or the district project, we'll send a letter out that it's going to give everyone 6 months minimum to bring their upper lateral into compliance. And then we'll also have a bunch of links to additional information to where they can find out of these, different programs that may help them further.
Hey, James, I don't want to cut you off, but we've got at least one other hand up here, and I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to talk. So if you don't mind, can we take another caller, and then we can come back to you at the end if you've got more questions?
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, James. So we're going to get to Becky because she's been waiting for quite a bit here.
Hi.
Hello.
For Ruben, I just want to thank the fire department and Todd Landau and everyone. I'm in Madera Gardens, near between Safeway and Neil Cummins Madera Gardens. And we know that we're not the most at risk for fire here, that the fires are much more of a concern in the hills. But we also know that we're in the Ember Zone, and I really appreciate that we have a free chipper day coming up. I have my appointment, and I like it. I love it that this program has been set up throughout, and I just want you to know that Madera Gardens, we understand we're not, we're the poor cousins when it comes to fire treatment, but we really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Becky. And no, you're not the second-tier cousins. We just say you're less at risk than
Yes.
the communities up in the hillsides. But yeah, so we've been kind of redoing a few revamping with our chipper program. if not everyone's aware, the fire department recently took over the resiliency portion of the program that dealt with fire reduction and fuels reduction. And so part of the program moving forward is what we're going to end up doing is we'll advertise the community that we're going to be in. And then you'll be able to sign up individually by your home, and then we'll come by and pick it up directly from your house. So keep abreast of any chipper days that are going to be coming up. To find out where they're going to be located, it's chipperdate.com is the site where you would sign up. So Todd has been fantastic since he's been coming aboard. He hit the ground running, and we're very fortunate to have him, and just be on the lookout for great things to come.
Thank you. I'm finished.
Awesome. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Ruben. Next is going to be Lucinda.
Hi, very quickly, I wanted to thank Ruben also for sending around teams up here in the hills to give us homeowners ideas of things that we need to look at, change, fix, cut, whatever, to minimize danger to our homes. And the crew or the team came around yesterday, and it was very helpful. So thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. And I hope that the neighbors take their comments and suggestions to heart, because I think it'll be very advantageous for us all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lucinda. Yeah, and so the team of inspectors that she's referring to were the same group that came through and hit all our Christmas Tree Hill and all of our higher risk areas. We had some funding left over through Measure C, which funds the inspectors coming through. So we're able to get them back into our community for an extra couple of weeks and started hitting some other areas of concern. Just be aware that they're going to be coming through every year, if not every other year. And then our motto here is using the 3 E's, which is try to educate the homeowner, then we encourage them, and if those two don't work, then we have the last tool in the toolbox, which is enforcement. So we're going to keep at it, and I'm hopeful that through encouragement and through education that all of our homeowners will heed the warnings of maintaining proper defensible space.
Great. Thank you, Lucinda. We're going to go to Deborah next, and we're just kind of getting into our last 15 minutes here. So if anybody else has a question, especially if you haven't had a chance to speak yet, please go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll make sure to get to you before we end here. So Deborah's going to be up next.
Hi, Ruben. It's Deborah Sartell. And I'm just butting in here because we had a visitor from an independent company hired by our insurance company to evaluate our land, since we are considered wild urban interface. I found out in talking to other people on Christmas Tree Hill that some people have already been dropped by insurance companies. I think this is something that the town and Ruben and Todd, we all need to take quite seriously, because this will become a bigger issue as time goes on. If they're dropping 1 or 2 now, people won't be able to organize, but you start dropping more and time goes on. So I think we need more strict laws. We need to clear out more. And because even looking in my space, I'm shocked that there would be an issue, but they're finding problems here. And I'm at the edge of town here at the bottom of Christmas Tree Hill. So I'm throwing this out there. There's a whole lot to talk about, and I need to figure out where to start, but we need some serious laws passed so that people can have control around their property. So that's what I have to say. But also thank you, Ruben, for all that you've done so far. And we had a great Chipper Day success up here on the hill. And Todd was very helpful. I was just freaked about this new issue now we have to deal with. So thanks.
Thanks, Deborah. And to follow up on that, for the last couple of years, since about 2016 or so, we've been seeing the insurance industry really going after homeowners that are in the wildland urban interface and dropping their insurance policies. And it's just because they're starting to look at their risk on a different stance than what they used to before. Primarily, the way they used to look at your fire risk would be in the event that you had a fire within your house, and so only one home would be affected. Now they're looking at their entire risk as a whole community or a whole town in general, and how what we look at. And a lot of times they're just looking at your home through a Google map overview, and they'll decide if you've got too many trees or too much vegetation. They'll drop you automatically without really independently taking each property as a unique structure and a unique topography and landscape. So that's why we go out there and we try to evaluate each home. And if you or your neighbors ever find yourself in that situation, feel free to give us a call. We'll come out and do an individual assessment of your home. We'll write a report. Not to say that your insurance company will reactivate you, but it won't hurt. And it's been successful in the past.
So he was measuring like we do, the defensible space, and he was measuring 30 feet out. I don't have 30 feet from the trees of my neighbor's land. And so there's all these issues that I think the town needs to take that seriously.
So the way the rule is written, the way the state law is and our local ordinances are, you're required to maintain 30 to 100 feet of defensible space or up to your property line, whichever comes first, because we don't expect you to clear your neighbor's land and so forth. So in theory, if each individual homeowner did their own defensible space, collectively we all have 100 feet of defensible space. Now for an insurance company to get out there with a tape measure and go beyond your fence line, in my opinion, I think it's a little unfair because you have no control outside of what your fence line is.
Yeah.
It's also unfair of them to make these decisions based on satellite imagery, because a lot of times the imagery on Google Earth can be years out of date. And so if you've done, home hardening or cleared some defensive space, that's not necessarily going to be reflected in the imagery. So that is a shocking policy.
But he was out here and he had just spent and seen a couple of houses on the hill. And so he was personally here measuring.
Yeah, so it's going to be almost impossible for each individual homeowner to have 100 feet on Christmas Tree Hill, just because, as you mentioned, Deborah, we barely have 30 feet, if even that. I think that's why they've got to look at it as an individual parcel and treat each individual property uniquely, because all of us have different hazards. Someone who's next to an open space area may have higher risk than you do sitting down at the valley floor. And they need to start looking at that versus trying to brush the entire community with one big broad brush and saying that we're all in danger.
Yeah, I'm worried about me, but I'm worried about those of the people on the top of the hill.
Yeah.
And that they're going to be, I mean, the way he sounded like they're just going to start cutting out policies to all these people.
Yeah, it's hard to find a policy anywhere in Northern California.
And frankly, this is not just an issue for fire hazard. This is going to be increasingly so an issue that we see for flood hazard as well. I know, I feel that the east side of town on the waterfront is kind of, maybe a few years behind Christmas Tree Hill in this regard. But like, I don't want to be alarmist here, but I do think it's important that we all are very clear-eyed and realistic about what's happening, which is that climate change is progressing. And what's happening is that first insurance companies raise the rates. And then once they see that, that the risk continues to increase, they're going to start dropping people.
Yeah.
Rates in the WUI have been going up for fire insurance, and now people are getting dropped. Rates for flood insurance are going up right now, and it's a matter of when, not if, people start getting dropped. So, it's a terrible situation for us to be in. I think looking at the enormity, the scale of the issue of climate change and the destruction that it causes. I don't know if the traditional model of the insurance industry is going to be viable anymore, given just how many properties across the country, across the world are going to be put at risk. We may end up having to come up with some totally new alternate to the insurance industry of the past centuries. But I totally hear you, Deborah. I think we all hear you. We've been watching this happen. It's very alarming. Ruben and his team have been doing a fantastic job of trying to increase home hardening throughout town for exactly the reasons that you're mentioning, not only to keep us safe, but to try and help residents keep their coverage.
Okay. Well, I think some laws passed would be helpful so that we just get people on board. No more pleading and begging and all this time spent trying to get people to be on board.
Right. Well, yeah, as Ruben said, we do resort to enforcement if the pleading and begging, don't work. If we try and work with folks, collaboratively at first, but at the end of the day, we have to mitigate these risks. We are bound to do so. We are obligated to do so, and Ruben and his team are doing that, and they're enforcing when necessary. So those laws are in place and they are being enforced.
Okay.
And as frustrating as it is, Deborah, believe it or not, Central Marin Fire by far does the most abatements and enforcement throughout the county when it comes to a fire agency and wildland mitigation.
Yeah.
Most other agencies revert back to just educate, educate, and educate.
Can I just one other thing? The mayor touched on it. And, Corte Madera is part of a larger risk pool. So a lot of we can't buy commercial insurance as a town. And so a lot of us joined with other cities and towns, a lot of marine agencies, a lot in the East Bay and Berkeley. And so we get twice a year reports of the insurance industry, the trends both from the private sector as well as the public sector. And as the mayor and the chief mentioned, the insurance industry over the next 10 years is going to completely change. But with that conversation as a town, Little Corte Madera, we went and we did. We have the laws on the books. We just haven't been enforcing them over the years. And so we said, what mechanism do we need in place to enforce them? Measure C was a big countywide conversation that actually moved about $900,000 total into the Central Marin Fire Authority budget to hire Todd Lando to ensure that the fire-wise safe communities to help us with insurance, to help with enforcement. The town also provides another $350,000 into the Central Marin Fire Authority budget, plus another $250,000 from the Public Works budget on vegetation management, on how to help people, do the chipper days and clear the vegetation. So there's 5 to 6 to 7 huge undertakings going on town and town-wide that at some point to your message, I think, Deborah, isn't necessarily add laws. It's really get these projects going quickly like we are, develop a plan and have the documentation there available for those residents when they do get their insurance, under consideration to be dropped. They have this information to provide an insurance company with the support from staff to at least have a conversation at that level. But again, we're all aware of it. We've been talking about this for 2 years. We're really concerned, but we also have a pretty robust budget. It's almost 1.5 million just for this effort that we've never had before. And if you compare us to others, you can't, because we're at the tip of the spear in this. We see it, we realize, Christmas Tree Hill is one of the most dangerous fire areas in the state of California. It just is. And so we need to do something about it. And so we're trying.
Okay, well, I appreciate it so much. This was a shock this week on top of all the other stuff, to find out that we're being evaluated for losing our insurance, so.
Of course. All right, thank you, Deborah. And my email is ebeckman@tcmmail.org. So if you want to chat about this some more, just shoot me an email and we can set up a time to talk.
Great, thank you, I will.
Sure thing. Okay, thank you, Deborah. We're gonna go back to Susie and then we will come back to James if he's got anything else to say before we wrap up here. Oh, Susie has put her hand down, it appears. So we will go ahead and, oh, no, there she is. All right.
Something that might help Deborah a little bit, if it's okay, I will remind everybody that a couple of years ago, we had a big talk from United Policyholders, and the NRGs put it on, and they are a consumer advocacy group that is amazing as far as helping people navigate through some of these insurance issues, which I just don't blame Deborah for just freaking out. It's very scary. But United Policyholders is a very viable way to go, at least to get some information and some help through this. And I think it's www.uphelp. It's UPHELP.org. But also, I have maybe more information if she wants to reach me on that, but it might be helpful to her. That's all. I thought of it when she was speaking. So that's all.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Susie. Awesome. And we will just come back to James. We've got just a couple minutes left here, but I wasn't sure if he had anything left in his discussion about these public works projects.
Thanks. I didn't realize that there was climate change, Eli. I was reassured from our president or somebody up there that that didn't exist.
If only.
A couple of quick things. I'm not sure what's happening with the sidewalk along between the fire station and on the east side here and Harbor Drive. If that's going to be replaced at some point across from Nugget. I was walking along there the other day and it just looks like a lawsuit waiting to happen with ups and downs and stuff. So if it's not already set for replacement, somebody needs to take a look at it. The other quick question.
It's being designed and it's set for construction next summer.
Oh, okay. Hope there's no lawsuit before then. The other quick question is, I mentioned that the signage on the exit from town center to 101 South and 101 North says only on those two streets. And I think somebody was going to take a look at that and see about that, because the more I thought about it, it means we can't turn out of that exit and drive over here where I live, literally. So my question is, did somebody have a chance to look at that, or somebody take a look at it?
James, RJ can jump in there, but we did have this conversation right after the call, and just so you know, like, we understand the only, but technically, and I was mistaken when I originally said it would be a violation. The southbound turn lane is specific to going southbound, but if you stayed in the northbound turn lane only to go to Highway 101, it's just directing you to the Highway 101 northbound on-ramp. If you wanted to continue on that lane over the overpass to the east side of Corte Madera, that would not be a violation. We agree it's a little bit, the language is a little bit misleading, and so RJ is reaching out to the, actually, I think I'm supposed to do that, right, RJ? I'm gonna reach out to the general manager. I haven't done so, Monty Stevens. And what we'd like to do is, it's their property, recommend that that they remove the only portion. And what we were gonna offer is, next time we're doing some work in the area, we would offer the contractor to come over and do that work for us, as it's a few $1,000s in cost. And so my follow-up is to follow up with Monty and just make sure that's okay, and time that over the next few months on one of our projects.
But technically, Todd, are you saying that 101 South lane, that if I were in that lane and turned to go to Paradise Drive out of that lane, that would be technically a violation?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that lane is supposed to, you have two options in that lane. If you're going in the one that's listed as 101 North, you have to stay on the inside track of that turn, if you will. And then,
right. And if you look at the lines, both lanes go over the overpass.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Their intent is just to direct you to south or northbound or southbound 101. That's all they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think
the only does make it confusing.
They're trying to help really the people that aren't familiar with the area, but they're just wayfinding stencils.
That's fine with me, as long as it's not a code violation of some kind.
Not a violation. You will not be ticketed for driving home from town center.
Yeah. You're safe.
Alrighty, guys, we got to wrap up here. We just hit our time limit. Thank you, James. Thank you, everybody on the call, for joining us today, asking some great questions. Thank you to all our incredible staff for taking the time to be here and answer questions and update us on what's going on. And I will look forward to chatting with you guys all in the near future. All right, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Bye, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.